Hello, this is Perry Mank. It is Thursday, September 17th, 2020, about 5:40 in the evening. This is For the People video, and it is a series of videos updating you about the developments that I'm experiencing, and it is also a training class session to be able to learn how to identify Cruel Catholic M.O. And the homework assignment comes from the August 28th, 2020 video, and the question about, once you know about Cruel Catholic M.O., who can you identify the white men that have been terrorized and targeted and destroyed, and that you could also do that with the black men too. Alright, so today it's been a long day. I worked on correcting or attempting to correct the CalFresh EBT food stamps, the SNAP program, and I went down to the Pleasant Hill office, and due to the coronavirus, they have the tables set up outside the front door, and then they come out and then they instruct you as to what you need to do. So all I could do was submit the form, and then I showed the person. First a white woman came out and she's talking about Winnie, and they know that's not appropriate. Then a woman, a Filipino-looking woman, came out, and she wouldn't talk about the receipt that I spoke about, how it had like 600 something balance left, and it had a total of, I showed her the receipt, and she wouldn't do anything. I showed her the receipt, and she said to email, right? She gave this to me. Let's see, can you see it? And I said, but that doesn't look like an email address. And she said, well, try it. So, and then she said I could call, and I said, well, my phone, phone is not working. So that was that. And I told her too that I also got a letter, like a couple days ago, that said that they changed the amount from. It's such a waste of paper, you just wouldn't believe it. This is one page right here with your address on it. See? It's such a waste of paper. And then this is the other paper, and it says that effective October 1st, 2020, your CalFresh benefits are changed from $16 to $27 each month because your utility cost has changed. When your utility cost changes, the amount of CalFresh benefits you are eligible to receive changes. They do that every year, and then all of a sudden it changes back down to $16. And I told her I don't know why there's, all that $100 on there. And then I started to tell her how the government is run by Nazis, and she wouldn't listen to me. She wouldn't accept what I was saying. She didn't seem concerned, And for all I know, she's Catholic. They probably sent out the Catholic Filipino woman, and they've been participating with this Nazism too. They don't believe in individual rights. They don't see you as an individual. And then when she said, I got to go back inside, and I said, they're going to kill you too. That's really what it boils down to. They're just using her to do their dirty deeds, and then she's not outsmarting them and saying, hey, I'm not going with the Pope. And instead she is going with the Pope, and then she's not providing. And this is how dumb these women are. They come from the Catholic churches and they're just dumb, you know, violent and dumb. They teach them to be terrorists. And our government is just saturated with Catholics. And they're terrorists. And they're just doing the dirty deed of the Pope. And they're that dumb. They don't go, hey, this is crazy. We're supposed to be providing. And each person that comes in here is an individual. Instead, we're being treated like, you know, dirt. And who cares what's happening to you? And then they contribute to it. All right, so that's what happened there. And then I posted on Facebook when I was waiting for the bus right there. The bus pulls up and it doesn't have the signage on it. So it stops, and I stepped in and I said, which direction are you going in? And he was going all the way in the opposite direction. But they did it again. They just keep doing it. And then I was taking another bus, and the guy... Oh, I think it was leaving here because I went out again. And then the bus driver opens up the front door and puts the ramp down. I took photos, but I didn't have time to post it. It's absurdity. These people are being instructed by these Nazis in the government, and they're going along with it. All right, and they're not outsmarting them. They're not outsmarting them. They're using them, and then they're going to kill them off too. You know, these are bus drivers. All right, so after I went to try to fix the food stamp situation, I came back to this Gestapo Jewish ghetto apartment, and then I had to rest, and Winnie too, when he's not doing that well. And then we went out again, and then this time I tried to fix the phone situation. So I went over to the Verizon store because that's the carrier for this new Affinity Cellular, and there was a young guy in there, and he's trying to help me, but everything I kept telling him, I tried this, I tried that, and then he goes, you should be able to, you know, do this and that, and he goes, otherwise I can't help you. And so I thought, okay, I'll go over to FedEx and I'll try on the computer again to see if I could try to get back on, or try anyway to get into the Metro PCS account. And sure enough, again, it's asking for this two-factor authentication thing where you are supposed to get a code. Well, the phone doesn't work, so I can't get a code to enter it in to get into Metro PCS online, the supposed account, right? So I went back over to him and I said, I just tried next door to go onto Metro PCS website to get into my account to try to find the account number to transfer over the phone number over to Verizon Affinity Cellular. And I said, it's asking for this two-factor code thing. And then he just didn't know what to do. And then that's what I told him. I said, well, you look young, and you probably don't know this, but our government is run by Catholics. And they're doing this to us. Everywhere we go, we're not getting services. It's a trap. And they're just, ruining everything. And I said, if you look at our government representatives, and I started naming them, look at, Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom, and here before it was George Miller, and, I just started naming all these people, and they're all Catholic. And I said, as I was walking out the door, because I could tell that he didn't really know what I was talking about because he's so young, what would he know? He's just going to work. Maybe he has other activities that he does after work, that's something that is for, important to him and how he thrives in life. And so I said, they're trying to cause a war. That's what they're doing. They're trying to cause a war, and we don't want a war. They're doing it. So anyway, he said about going back to Metro PCS. Again, I told him that they weren't trying to help me. So I ended up going to T-Mobile because that Metro PCS was bought by T-Mobile. So I knew that there was a store at the next shopping center, up the street. And so I went in there, and it was empty too. And I said, I'm in the process of, I'm trying to transfer the phone number from Metro PCS over to the new carrier. And I'm trying to explain to the guy what the problem is. And he goes, well, do you have an active account with Metro PCS? And I said, well, supposedly. And then I told him, that I'm, because I'm in the process of changing over, that, I'm like in limbo. So he says, well, we can't help you here, but Metro PCS is next door. So I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, I forgot. Okay, I'm just frazzled all the time because they terrorize me everywhere I go. So I went to Metro PCS and I walked in there and there's nobody in there either. So the young man that was in there said he could help me, and I told him the situation. And he goes, okay, well, I can show me your ID. First, he asked me for the account number and the PIN number, and I showed him what I had. And then he goes, okay, show me your ID, meaning like your California driver's license or California ID. And then I gave it to him, and then he gave me a different account number that Metro PCS never gave me when I signed up with them. They gave me 2 different account numbers. So he was kind enough to write that down for me, and then I said to him, Metro PCS is a fraud, it's a trap. And I told him what was happening in the government, that we're run by Catholics, and they're fraudsters. They're ruining everybody. Then anybody who speaks up, and I told this to the other guy, they're going to use bio-terrorism to kill you off because they don't believe in individual rights. So anyway, I told him, God bless you, and he says, I'm not religious, and no problem, right? And he too, and I said, well, then take care. And as I was walking out the door, he said, take care too, thank you. And that's all it is. But these Catholics do not believe in coexisting. They do not respect your religion. They don't respect your job. They don't respect what's important to you as a human being. They don't respect what your interests are. If it's gardening or photography or art, they hate it. Everything they hate. Because, and I told the young man at Verizon, and I said, President Trump won't talk about it because the Catholics are raping and molesting their children in the schools, and then they grow up to be adults who are doing it to us, and the women are being taught to be terrorists, and President Trump won't talk about it. And I'm sure after I left, he's probably thinking, oh yeah, Trump appointed that rapist to the Supreme Court. Okay, his name is Brett Kavanaugh, Marlon Brando, taught by Eli Kazan. I just do rape anybody. This is what they're doing in public. Anyway, all right, so what I wanted to talk about was back to, for the homework assignment, this case about CHP Youngstrom. I keep thinking about it. It just like pops up in my head about what really happened, just because of what I have been experiencing here, and he's a young man, and he's not Catholic. Okay, so I decided to go because in my my For the People video, my last episode, I talked about how in the description box that the Catholic Church has no right to apply this 1999 Catholic Lutheran agreement that changed the doctrine that is now back to the Catholic instead of the protester Lutheran, and they have no right to take control over our government and then apply that doctrine too. So it keeps like in my mind, I'm thinking, well, Youngstrom name sounds different, because when I was researching about him, I remember reading an article that said that he loves to make Swedish pancakes. So I just looked up online about the name Youngstrom. Where does it come from? And it's Swedish. It comes from the Swedish name that starts out Ungstrom, and then I guess Americanized it's Youngstrom. And so when you think about it, and I had written a separate part article that's not the series of part articles 1 through 7, and it was separate, and it was focused more on speaking to the people here in this community, and it was through Patch, and it didn't get taken down. And very briefly, I talked about how is the Catholic Church doing this to us because, because Henry VIII, got rid of all of the Catholic churches in England because he couldn't stand that the Pope, didn't want to annul his marriage and all this other thing, all these other conflicts that they were having. And because Henry VIII was actually Catholic first, then over that period of time and all the changes that were going on in Europe at that time with the Lutherans, the Protestants, the Reformed Protestants, and John Calvin, and it was just changing, rapidly changing. And so Henry VIII, right in the middle, just like obliterated, literally was just tearing down their buildings and everything. And so in this article, I just briefly say, is this some kind of sick joke that the Catholic is pulling on us, that they concocted up at the Vatican? Oh yeah, get rid of all of us because they're angry with Henry VIII and they can't stand Luther, and so get rid of all the Protestants from the Scandinavian countries, and oh, they can't stand that JFK was assassinated, and that was their hope, to just totally take over the United States at that time. And I was too young. I don't remember that. I think that happened in '63, so I was just a toddler. I don't remember. And so the sick joke that the Catholic Church is playing on us is this Vatican II. And so they're using the women terrorists. They just kept ramping up. And so the women are being trained as terrorists. And then now that women are so accepted, they're using these women to just completely saturate the government. And then they're just terrorizing people and then obliterating white men. Why wouldn't any white men speak out against this? I'm the first one. Okay, I proved it. Okay, Nancy Pelosi is the leader of this terrorist regime coming from the Catholic Church. So I'm going to post that particular article, Patch article, in the description box, and then you'll see how that was separate from the part articles, but I was still speaking to the people here in the community. All right, so Youngstrom is Swedish, and so if you look at what happened in Sweden, so many of the Lutheran churches are just gone. Hardly anybody even goes to church, and that was intentional by the Catholics. They wanted to get rid of the Protestants, and it worked. They completely took over the Scandinavian countries, and I've seen American YouTubers that are how shall I say, either Scandinavian or they married a Scandinavian, and all of a sudden they're gone. It's like, what happened to them? Did they take them away? Are they in some kind of concentration camp and they killed them? And then you think about what they were doing in Norway to the children, and Obama wouldn't do anything about it. They were taking their children away from them, and they couldn't get the children back. So the Catholics are doing this. They completely took over. The Nazis took over the Scandinavian countries, and in Sweden, they immigrated, they allowed, I shall say, these Muslims to come in, and they're claiming that it's the Islamics that are causing all the problems there. That's how they operate. And so rather than say it's us Catholics doing this, They don't claim responsibility, and they blame it on everybody else. All right, so what do I know about the Swedish people here? Well, I've been to the Swedish Pancake annual, excuse me, it's the annual Swedish Pancake. It's not a festival, but it's a event, and it's a wonderful Swedish pancake with like breakfast, and I've been to that, and it's a very small gathering, but it is open to the public. You could imagine, though, with that few Swedish Swedish people involvement, that they must be just bashing them, over the years, just bashing them till they're dead, or they're just obliterating them, and they never get to speak up. They never get to defend themselves. Nobody's protecting them. Nobody is speaking up for them. Nobody's speaking up for these Swedish people here. And I'm thinking back to in the early 90s, when I was going back to college, I took a computer class for business, and I met a Swedish woman in there, and she was married to an American woman, and they lived in Montclair in the near the Oakland Hills, and across the Caldecott Tunnel, and I remember she told me one time that her husband had to go on a business trip to South Africa, and when she was there all by herself, somebody kept coming around her home, like a man prowler, and was like taunting her and calling, and so this was somebody that knew that her husband was out on a business trip, and then he was targeting her at her home through her phone, and then actually coming out to her home and scaring her. And she was about my age, and we lost contact, but that's scary. That's really scary to know that our government is run by Catholics, and they're allowing this type of terrorism on the people in this country who trust that the government is protecting us, as they're saying on the news or in their public statements or in their on their websites, and they're doing the complete opposite, and they're threatening us. All right, so what that brings me to is their threat tactic, their scare act tactic. It's a terrorist attack. And I'm going to talk about that because you wouldn't know exactly what it was unless somebody experienced it, and now they were going to speak about it in public so that you could understand firsthand what the government here is doing. So, I was in a lawsuit. It was a legitimate lawsuit. I'm the litigant. I'm the prevailing party. I'm still the prevailing party. I'm the aggrieved party. I was following the laws according to our law books. Unbeknownst to me, the government was already overthrown by Catholics. And behind my backroom dealings, they were discussing and gossiping and plotting and working on, schematics, and maps and everything else amongst each other to terrorize me at any level of my right to justice, simply seeking justice. Unbeknownst to me, in addition to terrorizing me, they were terrorizing anybody who was assisting me, supporting me, or helping me in any way or form, even in the littlest bit, whether it was giving me a job, whether it was a place that I was staying, my home, my sanctuary home, whether it was even speaking to somebody just to be able to say, this is what happened. I had to go down to the library and I was down there studying. Even something as simple as that. So, what the tactic is, this scare tactic, which is really a terrorist tactic, is behind your back, they have hundreds of police officers, sheriff deputies, deputy district attorneys, judges, clerks, sheriff deputies, federal agents, and they start descending on us like vultures. Excuse me, I have to turn the fan on again. And without us knowing, ambushing us. Ambushing. So they start messing around with your payments, your services, your doctor appointment, your phone calls, your cable connection, purchasing your medication, trying to mail, receiving mail, planting a garden, feeding your pets, trying to sleep at night, who you're communicating with. They'll even instruct, force other people to then follow through with their scripts. And then those people are supposed to do what they're saying. And then in their head they're going, see, that's what they want. This is what we're supposed to do. But they won't tell you the very dynamic, the force behind it. They won't claim responsibility. It's a very wicked, insidious, threatening, life-threatening tactic where your life is in danger. And you say to yourself, look at what they're doing to that woman. She's losing everything. They already took her into custody, and all she did was go down to the courthouse because she's in a lawsuit. So I'm going to have to go along with what they're saying. They've got badges, they're wearing guns, they have a suit on, they've got a uniform on, they're driving a government vehicle, they're calling themselves a judge, a justice, and so they just go along with it. If I go along with it, they'll leave me alone, I'll get to live. And so the government terrorists are not saying in public that is what they're perpetrating on us Americans. We are hard-working, decent human beings, and they're making us turn to crime. And so they were setting me up several times to put me out in the street. And my life is in danger, so one time I had to finally ask, I think after it must have been at least 5 times that they attempted to make me homeless, and they did make me homeless already, 2 times. And so I ended up contacting one of my senior clients who had I don't know if she has it now, if she's alive, I don't know. And she had a condo in Rossmore, and so I asked if I could stay there, and she said yes. Well, technically, I was off by like a year and a half, or maybe not even that much, maybe a year, that I wasn't supposed to be. It would be actually about a year and 8 months, I think, that I didn't technically qualify to live in Rossmore. And so I was a guest, but I was forced to come up with some other way to protect my life, my physical being. And these government officials are Catholic, and they care less about who we are as individuals. And they will use bio-terrorism, they will shoot you, they will lie about everything about you so that you cannot live. And these non-Catholics have been going along with them for decades and decades. converting with them just like that. And these Catholics that come in there that are recruited are just dumb, dead weight. And they're just going along with it, and they don't even think about outsmarting them, and it comes from the Pope. All right, these judges like Marciano and Ruvolo and Golub and Zuniga, they were raped and molested by their parents, by their uncle, by their priest, and they're crazy. They're literally severely mentally ill, just like Nancy Pelosi is a prostitute. Her father was probably having her have sex with John F. Kennedy so that she could get a job in the government. And that's why we don't have rights. All right. So one last thing I'm not going to be able to talk about the second case. I'm just completely exhausted today. But I wanted to touch on one more part of this CHP Youngstrom. I mentioned about how in the description box I said Nancy, the daughter of Don Peckham, who ended up marrying my senior client, Kathy, her husband, passed away. He was doing everything he could to help me. He was the retired state investigator, and my point. Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh yes, I wrote in the description box that who was in the trees. Asking questions about what really happened in this Youngstrom case, and the reason I said that about the who was in the trees that could have shot him, because who really shot him? They can say all they want in the media. We already know that the information comes from the law enforcement, that it comes from the district attorney's office, and that they are lying, that the Catholics are lying. Okay, Nancy Pelosi is lying. Gavin Newsom is lying. Jerry Brown is lying. You can go on up to Hillary Clinton is lying in public. And so the information isn't the truth. And so the media can say all they want that this Carlton was the hero and then shot this Lacey guy, Christopher Lacey, but they don't say anything about the ballistics. I said that in the next episode. And so the reason I said that about the trees is because when I was living in Pleasant Hill, I remember I was, I can't remember where or why I was out that time, but it was dark, and so it must have been during the winter months. And I was coming back or going somewhere through the the back street from the condo complex. I usually didn't drive that way, and I was coming down around near Center or something like that, and there was a police car slowly driving along and shining a bright light in the trees. And I thought, what is this? And I was just like in my 30s then, my late 30s, and I remember telling one of the other condo owners, he was a retired fireman. He retired early. He was like in his late 50s or something, and he was getting like $120,000 a year in retirement. And we were talking about the police there, and I said, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was driving over in that area, and I told him, and this police was shining a bright floodlight up in the trees. And he was also saying that there was something wrong with the police too. And I bet they killed him. I bet they killed him off because he would have testified about me. And he was also living a double life, and he kind of gave me information about what was going on in the fire department. And so, they probably wanted to kill him off because they didn't want him to testify. All right, then the other issue was that coming out of the Alamo the town Alamo, which was near the Livorno exit, which is where this incident happened with Youngstrom and Lacey and Carlton. Out of that office, that sheriff's department office, the Alamo office, was this sheriff deputy named Bickerstaff, and he was one of the more top deputies. And I remember I had to call there one day. It was in, I think, 2003, and I had to complain about one of the deputies that pulled me over on Olympic Drive as I was going to the newspaper route early in the morning. And he pulled me over because he was claiming that one of my lights was out on the back of the vehicle. And I complained about it because it seemed off, peculiar. And I said so when I called this office, the Alamo office, all of a sudden this guy hangs up on me. And so I called back and I said, oh, the phone went dead. And he's like, oh, I accidentally hung up, or it accidentally hung up. No, I thought back later on, and they are doing that on purpose. They are doing that on purpose because I remember another time the lights in Pleasant Hill were flashing or something, or not flashing, but the red light was staying red for a long, long time. And then people were going through or something, and I called the Pleasant Hill police about it, and he was responding like, well, we have better things to do. Yeah, I mean, this is how corrupt it is here, and other people had said, too, that there was something wrong with the police here, and the feds don't do one thing about it. And this is the Catholics. The Catholics are doing this to us, and that money is coming from taxpayers, and then they're destroying us. They're ruining us on purpose. All right, so that is what I wanted to talk about today. And so today is Thursday. It's about 6:18 right now. And so I still haven't tried to activate the new phone yet. And so I'm going to attempt to do that when I'm rested up. I'm just totally exhausted. But I did do one thing today, and this was something that when I was at the FedEx office, before I had tried to use their photo service. It's like your self-serve photo service. Some of you may know you could bring in a device, all kinds of devices, and then you could print up a photo, or you could have it on a CD or whatever. And so when I went there a few weeks ago, I had tried to bring up the photo from my USB drive, and I couldn't find it. Well, little did I know at that time that this green guy, I don't know if it's green from the criminal conflict panel, who's very trained, highly trained in IT, and he was hired to screw us over through our devices, or it's Green, the newbie at the Martinez Police Department, and he's being trained on how to ruin our devices or keep us from using our devices. And so the day that I went, I wasn't able to pull up the photo that I wanted, but today I went and I was able to pull up the one I just transferred over. And then when I pulled it up, there was the one that I actually wanted to pull up. And so this is public domain. I found this is kind of disturbing because the government has completely alienated me from any of my clients, any friends that I had, neighbors, any reunion with my family. They don't want me to talk with the neighbors. They don't want me to really talk with anybody in town. They want to kill me, and it's scary. And so what I found on my older sister's Facebook one day was a photo that somebody else posted, a family member, and shared it on my older sister's Facebook, and I happened to, it was public domain, and so I copied it, and then I cherish it. I never saw it before, and so it's a whole family of my dad, who I don't know is alive or dead, and then my mom, who was murdered, and then me, and then my brother, and then my older sister, and then my middle sister, and then the couple that is visiting, they look like they're older than my parents. And I kind of think I know who they are, but I'm not sure. But this is the photo, and so let me see if I could just cover up part of it. Let me see if I could just kind of show you me and my mom. Let's see if I could do this. So there's we're wearing the same kind of dress, and let's see, there. And they were mocking me because they kept using this woman that I met. I wrote about it. She was from the Christian Science Church, and she was assigned to me so that she could pick me up and take me to the church during the behavioral health court program on Sunday, and then she would take me home or drop me off at BART. But she was kind enough to just pick me up at home and drive me back home, or we would go out to eat because I didn't have any food. That's what the government did. They put me in a situation without food, without medical. It was horrible. They terrorized me. But they were using her and terrorizing her to get her to do this to me, and then claim that she wanted it. Oh, I'm sure if they told her something different, she would have never gone along with it. But she was going, oh, you, like insinuating that, oh, you wore bobby socks. I said, no. And so you could see in that photo I'm wearing tights, because that's what we wore. I wore tights, or we wore long stockings. So that's what they keep doing to me. They keep mocking everything about me, and it's just, they steal your identity, and that's what the Catholic Church teaches, to steal your identity. So you aren't a human being. You are not a human being. All right, so thank you for listening, and Winnie's back here. And thank you for your support. And I don't really know what the status is. Thank you to the Puggy Allies. Thank you for all the people out there who are putting yourself on the line to outsmart these wicked terrorists that are in the government, who convert so easily to this cruel Catholic M.O. supremacist terrorist regime. All right, thank you much. And please, please tell the Swedish people, the Norwegians, the Finnish. I'm part Finnish. I have Finnish DNA. My dad side of the family. And, all these other people were being targeted. We're being terrorized. All right, thank you very much. Signing off for now.